welcome back to my channel. Today we'll be talking about mistakes. I personally have never made any, but I do know a lot of people who have made mistakes, and I've tried to learn from those mistakes. So specifically today, training mistakes. And so actually we'll be talking about the mistakes I've made with training, and probably the four biggest mistakes, let's say. So I feel like making mistakes really isn't all that bad, because we have an opportunity to learn from them. But the issue starts to be with we run out of time to kind of correct those mistakes. So I assume, and I don't remember this from school, but like the Wright brothers who put a plane in the air, well, I think there were probably people before them that made certain mistakes, and eventually they made uh, mistakes, I guess, that they didn't have to, that the Wright brothers didn't have to make because they made those mistakes. So they kind of picked it up where they left off, and then they were able to be successful at getting a plane in the air. So I've tried to do the same thing with people's mistakes. I've tried to learn from those so that I didn't have to make those, or and then hopefully you can do the same thing with me. Hopefully learn if you're currently making some of those mistakes, maybe to stop, or if you're thinking about making them, at least you'll have some information about how it went for me. So number one, I would say that a huge variation of exercises was a big mistake that I made for a long time. And the way that I looked at it, I remember the Weider confusion principle, the belief that I would eventually become stagnant, or that my physique would become stagnant doing the same thing over and over. And some of the stuff that I would look at as, I would still log everything, but logging stuff was so complicated for anybody else that didn't know the system that I was using. I would have to go back many pages to possibly find out the exercise that I did last. So there's many issues with that, but the way that I looked at things, I looked at the gym and I said, okay, pretty much how can I use every piece in the gym? And so I would rotate almost all the exercises that I could think of. Any exercise that I believed to be effective, I would throw it in there in some way. And the issue with that, like I said, there are many issues, but one is that it's kind of hard to get better at a movement because you are doing it so infrequently. Imagine someone learning how to do a squat. Now, when I was at this phase, I was probably a little bit past me learning how to do a squat, but probably not perfecting a squat. But let's just take that, and let's take a front squat, and let's take a hack squat. If I see those as being analogous exercises, that means maybe I'm doing them once every third workout. You want to throw some more stuff in there, and now all of a sudden we're not doing it very often at all. So for us to get very much better, or to get better at it, you've got to really be good with movement patterns. And I would say I was pretty good with movement patterns, so I was pretty good. I was pretty good at logging that nightmare, and I was also pretty good with picking movements up. But I would say that a negative is that you're not really conditioning your tissue real well, so that the kind of nuances, let's say, from different exercises, that it's been so long since you've used maybe, let's just say something that worked your adductors to a little bit greater stretch or something like that. And now that's probably a good place to find an injury. So Also, an issue that I see is that there are some exercises that are just superior to other exercises. And so you don't want to, I, to some degree, I had an idea of that because there were some exercises that I would rotate in more often than other exercises. So my second mistake was I would refuse to go away from a bad exercise, an exercise that didn't really align with me, let's say. And again, I was valuing the exercises relatively equally. And so let's just say something hurt my elbows. Well, I just went with it, let's say. Hurt a shoulder, just went with it. Didn't feel it all that well. I would just go with it. And really, that's probably not the best way to do things. The way that I try to explain to people now, um, you look at eating soup. So you can eat soup with a fork. Like you can do that. But for the most part, a spoon is a better utensil to use. It's just more efficient, just makes more sense. So the same thing with some exercises, and it depends on what your goals are. If your goal is hypertrophy, if your goal is preparing for a powerlifting meet, it's not like there's just a better exercise out there across the board. It's more about what are you trying to achieve, and now we can start to pick and how are you set up, say long femurs, or you've had an injury here or there or whatever it is. So there are better exercises, and you should probably be doing more of those exercises than exercises that aren't so good for you individually. Um, so that is number two. Number three, I think I picked this out of thin air pretty much, but maybe I read in a Flex magazine or something, and that's another thing that pretty much a lot of my information's from like the 90s and early 2000s, and it was muscle magazines. And for many reasons, those weren't the best ways, or that wasn't the best information. Probably was the information we had, so that was cool. But it wasn't all extremely well thought out. But one thing that I pretty much adopted was having 2/3 of my exercises being free weight exercises. I just felt like those were mass builders and that I would grow the most. I felt like the easy way out would probably be those machines, and I'm just not good usually with doing whatever is the easiest. So now, when I look at that, and the reason that that's an issue, and it can be a good thing too, but the 2/3 thing doesn't make any sense. Like where you pick that number from, but with a free weight, say with dumbbells, whatever your range is, whatever alignment is best for you, you can reach that, say, with a dumbbell. Now we look at a barbell, which is also free weight, and you're going to be more in a fixed position. Both of your hands have to be on that barbell, and that may not be a good alignment for you. So that's an example of a free weight being a bad alignment, or a free weight possibly being the best possible alignment. So there's just a lot of stuff that just for hypertrophy, and that's what we as bodybuilders are looking for. Uh, Free weights are not necessarily superior, definitely not across the board. So I still think you should have a mixture of all of it, and sometimes a mixture for injury prevention. I think that it's a good idea to hit some more free weight movements coming out of a competition phase, let's say, just for you to get better at controlling some weight and not being in as much of a fixed position. Similar to, say, having a functional phase if you were an athlete, or what may be called a functional phase. Um, and now let's look at the fourth mistake. And the fourth mistake, I continue to make it. So that's the one that I would say that I continue to make. And I don't know if I'm going to do a good job of fixing it. And it would be trying to access range of motion that I don't have. I think that I've watched guys probably recently that are big, they try to focus a lot on getting as great a range of motion as possible. And they feel that that's superior. And I would say that using your greatest range of motion might be superior, but the greatest range of motion possible is you probably letting the weight force you into a position, and it's real hard to tell when you have weight in your hand whether that's a position you can get to without that weight, or whatever it may be on your back. Um, so I would say that continue to try to push for greater range. And if you're trying to work on your range of motion, don't do that with a really heavy set. And probably the best way to go about things is to make sure that your warm up sets are kind of a template for your working set. So, as an example, if you're not bottoming out on a leg press for your warm ups, and now with your work sets you're bottoming out, that tells you that you're stretching that just a little bit. And that sometimes is where injury lives. And I would say most of the injuries, a lot of the injuries that I've had in the last 5 years have been pretty much that. So, that being said, I was very successful even though I made these mistakes. I think that pushing hard in the gym will pretty much negate or neutralize any mistakes that you're making. And of course, not all the mistakes, but a lot of mistakes, if you just really work hard, push yourself, you can do a lot of stuff wrong and still see results. So, well, hopefully you learned something from them, and maybe that I'm an idiot, or maybe that how to prevent yourself from being an idiot. But if you feel if you want to, you can leave some mistakes in the comments that you've made, and then we can all laugh at those and make fun of those. Not really. I mean, it's possible, but it's just cool maybe to share. And a lot of us have made a lot of the same mistakes. So, all right. Thanks for watching and listening to these mistakes, and I'll have another video up soon, hopefully, about other mistakes I've made.